Yo, yo, yo. Good morning. Morning, good morning. Morning. How are the markets doing today? They've been kind of everywhere this past week or so. I don't know if my... Oh, yes. Thank you. I literally, like, twice, like, 2 out of my 4 streams a week, I have a problem with my camera. Like, 5 minutes before stream, and today it wasn't showing up. And I, for some reason, forget every time that the thing that always fixes it is just to unplug and plug it back in. So I'm like disabling like stuff in OBS, like re-adding it. Then I have to like reframe it all and do all this stuff. But okay, this is working, so we're good. Yeah, I don't know, just having problems. Oh my. Pretty sideways day, which is pretty good. But the VIX is up, which is the volatility index. So yeah, this past 5 days have been very high. Well, what just happened? Anyways, this is also happening right now. Robert F. Kennedy getting sworn in. We got Bernie here roasting them. Yeah, bro. I bought this NVDL 2 times leverage Nvidia. Oh shit. This is 1 month. I bought it like 5 days ago. About. It's been so bad. I got 1 share. The other day when it was Nvidia was down, it was down like 60%. Yeah, Nvidia's down 5% today. Oh, I think they had earnings. Dang, they're down again today. Reddit's up though. How is Reddit going up so much? It's just 5 days. We're up 9% 5 days, 15% 1 month. Like, what has changed? Crazy. Reddit usage is high. I feel like they kind of have struggled turning that into dollar signs. Like their advertising is still kind of subpar compared to most other like platforms. But I think they're getting a lot of international users now. It's starting to catch on overseas. Ads are everywhere. All right, comments. Oh shit. Okay, post. Dang, they're in the comments. I only use Reddit on my computer now. I don't have any Reddit app, so I just never use it on my phone, so I never see ads. Dang. Well, I guess that probably means that they're making money. Their earnings are February 12th. And when is Nvidia's? There's actually several big earnings this week. Nvidia's isn't for a while. Black box myself. Microsoft's earnings are today. Okay, Microsoft's are today. Sick of every platform. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mainly just been using, bro, like literally it sounds dumb, but like emails, like my platform. Like I just get my newsletters. You know, I subscribe to people who I want to hear their opinion. I don't like no algorithm. Nice. Okay, let's start with some gaming, because I feel like talking about that. It's been in the gaming mood. No Man's Sky Worlds. Part 2. 3 hours ago. I don't know what it is, but it's space game. I don't know. No Man's Sky is kind of in a weird spot for me. Like it's fun, but like it gets boring really quick, and like it's just the graphics and like controls are a little wonky. But I don't really know like what it like now kind of like what it's trying to accomplish, like what kind of game it is. It's like an RPG, but it's not a survival, but it kind of is. Yeah, 100% agree. Yo. Yeah, so I don't know, but let's see what they're gonna add here. Oops, there's no. I feel like it would actually benefit the most as being like an MMO, if I'm being honest. Like it's almost kind of there. Like add in like servers so you could have like 100 people in a server or something, and like I don't know. I feel like that's where it kind of benefit, or at least like fit in more.
And it was just the beginning. We can't wait to show people what we've
there
been
he is.
working on.
Wait, he's British?
New solar systems,
Or is he not?
new planets,
Why did I think he's like American?
new terrain.
All right, they're going too slow. Let's speed this up a bit. Oh my god, I swear to god, if this is copyright. Just kidding.
You'll truly love.
Okay, what's new? It does this. I don't know. This looks like their visuals or like the graphics do look pretty good still, but they always have kind of looked a little bit. Worlds Part 2.
Across the universe, we're adding billions of new solar systems and trillions of new planets.
Is that like why though?
The boundaries of our engine with new technology.
Oh, is this I think this is like the big yes. Right, you're exactly what I was just coming to me too. Yeah, I think it is where they kind of redesigned the like generation and stuff, and yeah, they added water. I was like, what even is this? But I was like, why do they need new planets? There's already like a trillion or some shit. Like that's like the ultimate like American game dev. It's like there's like abundance, you know? It's like there's a trillion planets. You'll never ever visit, not even close to a fraction of any of them. But here's a trillion more just in case, you know? It's like, okay.
Introducing new biomes and terrains without changing what people already love about the game.
Okay, we're speeding this up even more.
It's now so far beyond what we ever thought was possible when we started out. I've been working on a new terrain system for a little while now. Terrain is more detailed,
Those look cool.
far more varied, with huge mountains and these massive features.
I guess though, like, what I don't really know what this like changes about the game. Like, it definitely makes it like prettier and more aesthetically pleasing, you know, which definitely will draw people. But like, it doesn't really change. It seems like it doesn't change much of the core game loop. Like it'd be cool if they did this and then had some other thing to complement the changes in it. Like maybe they will, but they just need to get to the fucking point, bro.
The team is, we're extremely busy on Light No Fire. Each time we push our engine to new places, though, we have this urge to share it with the community.
Pretty samey feeling. Hopefully, yeah, true. I feel that.
Truly epic. 10 times bigger than our biggest planet.
Okay, so new planet
sort
types.
of endgame stuff to explore them with huge storms that rage across the surface.
Oh, mechs? Are those has those been in the game?
Oceans that can be several kilometers deep. And
Oh,
the
I
lighting
see.
system
This changes
makes
a
them look
bit.
so different with new caustics, light shafts, and the deeper that you explore, the darker it gets.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Moments where you're exploring and suddenly some huge creature comes into view, and it's just incredible.
this is kind of just like an exploration game. Like, definitely it does first.
Every element of our lighting has been rewritten. Shadows show more details, light flickers through the leaves. Caves
Okay,
are
Tron,
dark and immersive.
let's speed this up.
Oceans now reflect the clouds and stars to create these beautiful sunsets and night skies. Water reacts physically to the world around it. Creatures wade through it. There's little dipples in the rain, with large waves as ships fly overhead.
Okay.
Sometimes there's these moments where a ship just flies past the still
Fish.
ocean and water ripples underneath, and it's just so peaceful to watch. In the
That's
depths of the
cool,
ocean
looks
and on
good.
land, there's these new creatures to discover. I think we've gone probably weirder than ever before. When you land on a planet, all the tech, it combines to create an emotion. That feeling of knowing that no one has ever been on this world before. I think it's what makes this game really special. There's tons of new gameplay too. There's this huge quest that ties together some strands that we've been building for
Huge.
years. We've got an expedition that takes you on a tour of all the new worlds we're building. We've got some incredible rewards.
Bro, this okay, theory. This is Hello Games beta testing their survival game right now. This update is just their survival game. Light No Sky or whatever. Right? Like this is them like, okay, let's push this, let's see what they think, like, you know, how players react to it. We can make some changes. We'll iron out any bugs. They're just using No Man's Sky as like the biggest sandbox game, and then they're just making smaller games out of the existing features in the game, just like taking it out and repackaging and selling them. That's kind of what this update feels like.
This is the
I don't really understand. They need to really sell this survival game as like a unique game and not just like No Man's Sky mini.
year since release, and I think we're probably doing things the community never thought would happen. I honestly can't wait for people to play.
Okay, that was it. All right, thanks, Sean. Thanks, Mr. Murray. Anything else here? No Man's Sky World. Roadcraft. Nothing here. Oh, nothing that piques my interest. Space Engineers 2 is cool, but it's gonna suffer from every number 2 game that is a survival or like management game. It's like, how's it different from the first? And sell it. All right. I actually did want to wait, what was my other video I had? Oh, I was LinkedIn. I want to look up a video of the like 5080 or 5090 review, because it's not as good as it seems like it was. What is one that's not like 20 minutes long? This is the one that was. Let's watch this guy. He's recommended my personal channel.
The new RTX 5080.
And then actually, this is an interesting one. We'll cover this next.
Tomorrow. So let's take a look at how fast this thing really is. We've already taken a look at the 5090, and that definitely set the tone for what to expect. I mean, this generation is not looking like a massive jump at all, especially in terms of performance versus power curve. It's maybe the smallest jump we've seen in the last decade.
Wow.
As for 5080, it's a $1,000 GPU, $200 less than the 4080, but the same price.
This is likely the one that I would probably get.
As the 4080 Super, which launched a little bit later on. For that, you get slightly more shaders, slightly smaller silicon process, same VRAM capacity at 16 gigabytes, although it is higher bandwidth at GDDR7. As a little refresher, let's go back to the 3080 and the 4080 and see what kind of gains we're getting there. In the 12 games that I tested, there was quite a bit of variance, anywhere from 96% down to 10%, but on average, the 4080 was a 36% generational leap. As for the new 5080, that number is now 14%. In fact,
14?
it's 6% in Stalker 2, 5% in Black Ops 6, and just 4% in Cyberpunk. At most, I saw a 23% uplift in F124, and 21% in the new God of War. If you thought these games were bad, let's swap out the 4080 for the 4080 Super. After all, the 50
But even the DLSS, or even this DLSS down here, which is like where its strength is like nothing. There's like nothing there. Bro, like Cyberpunk's the same.
The 80 is $1,000. The 4080 Super was $1,000. The average improvement now.
I mean, I'm sure from a 3000 series to 5000 series, it's pretty good, but
9%. In some games, the performance is literally identical, which just blows my mind. I have no idea how Nvidia thought this was okay. One good thing, I guess, is that the new 5080 is actually pretty low power in comparison to these other cards. The listed TDP has gone up to 360 watts, but it actually pulls way lower than that. On average, I was seeing 273 watts. In most cases, this would be a good thing, but here, it actually just makes the 5080 look.
yeah, it's
I would
cheap.
much rather
It
just
is
get a
cheaper,
420
much
watt
cheaper.
card like the 4080 Super and at least see a
That's probably how they justified the prices then.
bit more performance. The benefit of it being a lower power GPU though does mean some pretty good temperatures. This Founders Edition uses the exact same cooler from the 5090 as far as I can see. After 30 minutes at full load, it was topping out at just 65 degrees on an open bench, and that was with higher than average power draw and a pretty warm room temperature of 25 degrees C. So some of the aftermarket Mammoth triple slot cards I'd imagine will easily sit in the low 60s with this thing, even being in a closed case. Actually,
That's
my CR Racing
ridiculous.
has a 4080 in it, and I was genuinely planning to upgrade that to the new 5080, but as you can now see, that would be completely pointless. If you're coming from something like a 3080 or under though, it would be a meaningful upgrade. I mean, you're definitely getting some more frames. Between a 3080 and a 5080, it's like 70% uplift on average. In some games, you'll see over double the performance.
Yeah, that was a kind of other I actually just saw some news headline about how they're kind of hard to get right now. Yeah. Uplift spotty availability at launch. Yeah, same. I have 30,000 series. I usually upgrade every other, but I have a feeling Nvidia's not going to release another one for a while. I think they're going to start like slowing down. Especially as it's so much more lucrative to sell their enterprise GPUs than it is the consumer ones, just because the margins are insane. You know, they're selling those enterprise ones for like 30-40K a pop, and you know these ones are 1,000. So I think they're gonna like just focus on that for a while too.
Black Ops 6 is a bit of a
I can't believe they even released a GPU this year, but I guess the 4000 series is kind of getting outdated. And it also definitely seems like they want to push this more like local AI thing too. So
I did retest that as well today. Even on the 4080 though, it does seem to.
Oh, this is a 3080. Okay, 70% faster on average is pretty good. This is about what I get. Like at like 43 frames, 4370. This is about what I get to with like this. But 70% is good for 3080. But yeah.
For some reason. If there's wondering, 5080 versus 5090, it's a $1,000 difference in MSRP, probably even more than that in the real world, and we're looking at a 50% jump in frame rate on average. But yeah, 5080, man, it is pretty disappointing. For a bit more context, the past 80-tier GPUs, like the 3080 and the 4080, they were faster than the flagships of the previous generation. So 3080 versus 2080 Ti, 4080 versus 3090, they cleared them pretty easily. This new 5080, though, has no chance of beating a 4090, even if you go back as far as the 20.
Dang, that's crazy. The 5080 can't be the 4090. Bro, what'd they say in that screen? The 4070 or 5070 equals a 4090? Like, I don't know what math jujitsu they pulled out to do that bullshit, bro, but dang. That actually changes my opinion on it a bit. Like, I don't know, I just expect the 5080 to beat the 4090 last time around. This is just like specific benchmarks, it looks like, but
The 1080, the GTX 980, they were all faster than the previous flagships. Here though, I mean, this thing is looking more like a 5070. Quick mention on a DLSS 4 frame gen, it's the new exclusive feature on these GPUs, and it is very polarizing to say the least. I've seen some completely, varied opinions on this, from, it's the future of gaming to never mention it ever again in a review. I'm somewhere in the middle. I tested it out in my 5090 review.
I don't know. I still think this generative frame bullshit is... It's two things. It's game developers not caring about performance anymore, no offense. And also just the complexity of like modern AAA games. And then two, it's Nvidia wanting to justify something with AI and the consumer GPU, and this is a way that they could corner the market because no one else could make DLSS because it's specifically tuned to their cards. So I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about this like generative frame shit. Like, obviously I think to me it just seems like, yeah, we're going to become reliant, game developers are going to become reliant on DLSS and this generative I don't even know what they're calling it. Generative frames, neural frames or whatever I don't even remember. It's just going to be, we're going to become reliant on them, and then people are going to they're going to fuss when another company doesn't get the same performance with that DLSS, like AMD or Intel. Like, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not. The more I think about it, the more I feel like NVIDIA just did this just to corner a market, like their generative frame shit. Even though they already have the monopoly, they have like a 90% plus market share in GPUs, gaming GPUs. I don't know.
You know, better than expected experience. The additional smoothness gained for me far outweighed the visual artifacting that I was seeing most of the time. Being able to go from 80 frames per second up to 240, 250 frames per second is something that I would.
Wait, so this is medium DLSS balanced. I mean, like, this definitely kind of looks better, maybe. This had, I don't know, you could see, like, there's definitely, like, less visual stuff.
Would look forward to switching on in some games. But then when I went to use it on the 5080 with the exact same settings, my experience was far worse. And that's because the starting frame rate was much lower. Instead of the starting frame rate being like 75, 80 frames per second on the 5090, it was more like 50, 55 FPS.
Bro, what, dude? That's literally my biggest complaint. Is like, I've been playing Cyberpunk lately. Just been in the mood, but I could never. I just have to either run it at shit graphics or shit FPS. And I was like, dang, it'd be so nice just to get a new graphics card. I could just like run this at like, you know, at least 60 full time, maybe, you know, like pushing more. And it's like, bro, no, I could even hardly still push 60 FPS. I don't know who to blame, CD Projekt Red or Nvidia on this one. CD Projekt Red, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Time delay between frames is greater.
I don't know.
More visual artifacting, and it also means greater latency. So yeah, if your starting frame rate is like 50, 40, maybe even 30 FPS, I think that's going to be pretty unbearable. But if you give it an input frame rate of like 80-ish FPS, you know, being able to boost up to that 250, 260 FPS range with FrameGen, you can now fully saturate a 4K 240 Hz monitor.
Yeah, okay, I think I get it, because the higher base FPS, the more accurate the frame generation will be, just like in ChatGPT, because the way ChatGPT predicts what to give you, what text to give you, is very similar to how they're predicting frames. They kind of take the previously generated frame and then, you know, use that as input to generate the next one. So the more granular the frames could be, the better it will obviously be. But at that point, it's like, what do you even need the frame generation for? So like, yeah, the higher base frames you get, then the smoother, the higher the frames, like the smoother the fill, he's got like the fill in or whatever will be. That makes sense. But that kind of defeats the purpose, I guess. It's like, yeah, if you have lower frames, but then turn on this generative frame DLSS, DLSS 4, then it'll fill in the frames, but it'll be more artifacty and choppy. And then, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that is.
I don't really like that, because it's still just, it just defeats the purpose a bit, I feel like.
Something that I would recommend for competitive games, though. Let's be totally clear about that. I feel like that just goes without saying. I know the frame rates look super enticing, but the frames are delayed, most importantly, and introducing any chance of like artifacting or ghosting is just plainly a bad idea in that style of game. In those games, just set everything to the absolute lowest settings, and if you need more frames after that, you can drop your render resolution as well. For single-player games, though, where I want to load
it's like 700 FPS
with the controller and just enjoy the story, yeah, I don't find FrameGen that offensive. Just make sure that you're feeding it an input frame rate, I mean, at least above 60 frames per second. I know Nvidia's marketing around it has also been super aggressive, which is not the best, but now the truth is out there, so we'll see it for what it is. So if a 4080 Super and a 5080 are sitting on a shelf at the exact same price, of course you'll go with the 5080. But what's more likely to happen in the real world is that the 4080 Super is going to be a little bit cheaper, or maybe you'll be able to find a used 4090 for a little bit more. And
yeah, what the heck? That's actually the aftermarket of these GPU. Like, bro, these things hold price like gold. Like, actually, like they hold their value for a long time. I saw the 1080 Ti was like, especially, I mean, that was mainly because of the crypto boom, but like those were still hella expensive, like not that long ago.
In those cases, I would prefer to go with those other two options instead. So yeah, definitely not a GPU that you'll just want to throw your money at. Definitely consider your other options.
Dang. That's why the Nvidia stock price is down. Let's be real. Okay, this is interesting, actually. Microsoft was the #1 publisher in the world last month, and yeah, they spent $465 million was spent on Microsoft games over December, And I imagine at holiday season, like in, you know, consoles being more casual, easier to buy for Christmas gifts type of thing. I imagine this has something to do with that, but $500 million on games over December, making the company the world's biggest publisher across PC, PlayStation, Xbox, even PlayStation. That's crazy. And I tried to find this report from Ampere, but I actually couldn't find the report, or it's not free. So we don't have access to the original source, which is unfortunate. Yeah, there was this, but this was, you have to log in to download it. So I was like, okay. And then there was this, but I don't think this is the source of that article. So anyways, it's a very short article. There's just not much there. Okay, so that's according to data from Ampere that includes sales of Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which is one of the biggest games over the holiday period. It also includes the release of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which launched December. What, did Microsoft publish that? Machine Games. Oh, Bethesda published it, which Microsoft owns Bethesda. So, oh, interesting. Oh, Machine Games is just owned by ZeniMax, which is Bethesda's parent. Oh, okay. So they're just like a partner studio with Bethesda subsidiary. Okay, interesting. Which launched in December. But it was Call of Duty that delivered the majority of the success. Call of Duty HQ, which includes Black Ops 6, attracted 38 million monthly users in November 2024, Ampere says, which is set the game up strongly for December. Dang, 38 million monthly users. That's way more than I would have thought. That's like on par with like World of Warcraft or probably even more. Oh, bro, it's not even close. Well, this is a daily. Wow. I mean, it's like on par with World of Warcraft. I wish they had monthly active. Old school RuneScape is literally number 2. That's crazy. Honkai Star Rail? I didn't even know that was popular still. Dang. Yeah, but that's a lot of people. Way more than I would have thought for a Call of Duty game, honestly. Microsoft isn't putting increased focus on its multi-format strategy, and 64% of consumer spending on Microsoft titles in December was on PlayStation formats driven by Call of Duty. Interesting. Yeah, that is interesting that, you know, Microsoft is kind of going the opposite direction of what most other kind of larger games are doing, and like closing the platforms off, I guess. Like Microsoft's still cross releasing stuff, even though they own Activision, Bethesda. Or was Starfield exclusive? I swear that might have been on Xbox only or something. Yeah, this was. No? I don't even know how to figure that out. I'll try and buy it. That's like the easiest way. Okay, it's not actually, I think. I think this was yeah, I think it's only it was an exclusive. That's interesting. Right, yeah. And that's my thought though, but it seems like they're still like with Call of Duty and stuff. They're like still or publishing it like cross-platform, which is interesting. And I know they said that they would still do that for like 10 years when all the antitrust stuff was happening when they were trying to buy Activision. But I just assumed that they wouldn't, or not wouldn't follow that, but maybe I guess I assumed they wouldn't follow that. But it's working really well, it seems like. So I guess why wouldn't they if it brings them that much money? Which it sucks that Activision now bought by Microsoft, because we can't actually see like details of like their finances. Like when now they're just lumped into Microsoft's like gaming division or Xbox, and so we just get to see like aggregate stuff. We don't actually get to see like how much, you know, Activision made off of Call of Duty versus everything else. Okay, Ampere says Microsoft was comfortably ahead of second place Electronic Arts, which generated $366 million over the same period. Okay, I'm confused about their benchmarks. They said Microsoft spent $465 million, but then they said that EA's second and they generated $366 million. Like, what are these benchmarks? EA's performance was driven by EA Sports FC25. Okay, of course, which delivered big numbers, albeit smaller than they were last year. Bro, hopefully these, I mean, actually, I don't know if I should say that, but I was like, these bullshit, like, sports games that they're just, like, copy pasting, like, you know, like, I'm sticking out for these consumers, you know, like, like, do you want to keep spending all this money every year on the same games you were last year? But, so hopefully the sales are, like, they're kind of shrinking, that they might, like, finally have to innovate, like, fuck. Ampere data also revealed that 30 million hours were spent playing Fortnite on Christmas Day. Okay, guys, like, not everyone is in America, all right? Like, which meant the average Fortnite gamer spent 2.3 hours on the game that day. Bro, I love that. It's like Fortnite's like the iPad kids game, you know? And so it's like, you know, Christmas Day, everyone's opening presents, like, Mom, like, are we done yet? I just want to go play Fortnite and Roblox. Are we done opening presents? Like, kid who doesn't care about any presents and like just gets all satisfaction, fulfillment, dopamine he needs to survive off of Fortnite. Like, that's the modern gamer right there, actually, if we're being real. Like, that's peak performance. Dude probably gets fucking chicken dinners every game. So that's the wrong game, but okay. 20 million hours were also spent on Call of Duty games during December 25th. Okay, see now, yeah, chicken nuggets arrow. See, now this is the other end of the spectrum. If over here we have iPad Kid, over here is like, you know, like maybe says too many slurs at, you know, Christmas dinner, and grandma thinks it's a little too funny. All right. That's the other end of the spectrum over here. Yeah, we'll see. Okay. The two big talking points of the month were Marvel Rivals, which brought in 29 million monthly active users over December. And Marvel Rivals came out of nowhere, which is crazy because I literally didn't see anything about this game maybe until like a few weeks before, and it just took off. And it's published by NetEase Games, which is interesting that it is like a big Chinese company got this published. What was I looking at? Oh yeah, here, Marvel Rivals. Who did they like work with though? So they published. Oh, they were developers too. Yeah, it's crazy. Just came out of nowhere. While Path of Exile 2 generated $148 million of firm estimates. And I wonder if this is Path of Exile 2, I swear, they've been working on that forever. So I wonder if this is like what they expected, like in line with estimates for like making their money back on the development. Like 150 million seems pretty good for like a first month of a game that like seems like it prints money from microtransactions. Both of these successes made December a big month for Chinese publishers, which are growing their influence in the global game industry. Yeah, because Path of Exile 2 is... They're grinding gear games. Tencent. They're owned by Tencent. Crazy. There were 4 key Chinese published games that drove the numbers last month, including Marvel Rivals for NetEase, Path of Exile 2 for Tencent, Infinity Nikki Paper Games, and Delta Force Tencent. Shit, I forgot about Delta Force. And yeah, that is Tencent. As a result of these titles, Chinese games publisher Tencent number 5 and NetEase number 9 entered Ampere's monthly rankings for the first time. Wait, what was this game? Infinity Nikki? This, like, no offense, this kind of sounds like... Yeah, okay. I was like, it kind of sounds like an anime Asian kind of game. Nothing against it, but... I've never heard of Paper Games. Publishers, Paper Games. They're like a public company, looks like. The growing global scale of major Chinese publishers adds a new dynamic to the console and PC gaming markets, and inevitably means added competition in what is already a hyper-competitive industry. This is Ampere Research Director Pierce Harding Rolls. According to recent NPD data, PS5 console sales are tracking ahead of PS4 in the US, while Xbox Series consoles lags behind Xbox One, highlighting the widening gap between the machines. Last week, Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer did the media rounds discussing where Xbox console hardware fits in with its new, more open approach to multi-platform game development. I feel like we did take a look at this. Maybe we didn't. Because Microsoft earnings are today. Yeah, today. And I imagine they want to know, a lot of investors want to know how gaming did over the holidays and what their plan is for this year. So I assume, I wouldn't be surprised if there's more information that comes out after today or this week regarding some stuff, hopefully. I say that because I actually just more so want stuff to come out because I'm interested. But we did cover how Phil Spencer, it was actually, I feel like on this website, about his like Xbox maybe going into... Oh, actually, no, I'm remembering this. This is a while ago, but it was a very long post by someone on PC Gamer, Xbox future. And they talked about the future of like, or maybe it was this. I don't know, it was really good. I wish I could find it. It was really good write-up. It wasn't this. I can't find it. Might have been by this editor-in-chief. Nah, it wasn't by this guy. Anyways, okay. But I'm just curious what Xbox's strategy going forward, especially for consoles, considering that they are not doing like too hot compared to the PS4. I mean, the PlayStation is kind of just like doing like way better. It's not like not really close, I guess. And yeah, it's like, what's even the point? Like the whole point of having exclusive console deals is to sell more consoles. But if Microsoft doesn't even care about that, then what's the what's the Xbox's role here? Because I think the more traditional sense was to purchase game companies, release them exclusively on the console, and then you make the money back by people buying the console, and then you have the platform of selling games, and ideally it'd be digitally because there's less margins, and then microtransactions, which Xbox might get a cut of if it's on its store, etc. But now that it seems like they don't really care about that. What's the why? I wonder why. What's the strategy? And it's not like they're going against PlayStation, because PlayStation, I'm sure, is like, what do we care? Yeah, release Xbox games on PlayStation, please. You know, like, so people could keep playing on PlayStation and buying the games through our store, so we get a cut of things. You know, so they have to buy PlayStation Plus or whatever the hell. Like, I'm sure PlayStation's like, yeah, welcome. Which the CEO, the co-CEO of PlayStation is now the CEO of Sony or some shit. So like, Sony named CFO Hiroki Totoki as CEO, succeeding Kenshiro Yoshida and placing co-CEO Nishino as CEO of Sony. Oh, it's Sony Interactive Entertainment. Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious to know what Xbox's strategy is going forward. Like, I don't know what their strategy is. I wish I could find that article though, because that's what it was kind of about. No, this isn't it. This is from... Dang, I won't be able to find it. Oh, well, okay. All right, let's move on then to kind of gaming related, but I've just been really into the VR stuff lately. I just think VR workstation shit is like so cool. Like, I want to just like stand at my desk and have no monitors and have like an infinite workspace. That just seems really cool. But Meta Quest is doing insane. So Quest brand has never been stronger. Meta Reality Labs hits major target ahead of earnings report. There's not really much of a better source, if I'm being honest. They're seeking alpha, but there's not really much content here. Meta Reality Labs sales for 2024 are more than 40% higher than in 2023. And I think this is mainly with them selling VR headsets, specifically the Meta Quest. I thought it was metaverse shit, and so I was literally gonna title this stream like the metaverse making a comeback. But I think this is more so VR headset. It was a memo leaked to Business Insider. If I can get past the paywall, we'll read this. Fuck yeah. all my uBlock Origin filters worked in my favor. Okay. Reality Labs exceeded nearly all of its 2024 sales and user targets, and internal memo said. In the memo seen by Business Insider, Meta's CTO said 2024 was pivotal for Reality Labs. The executive said Meta has seen massive sales growth in wearables and its Quest brand is strong. Meta's Reality Labs beat nearly all its sales and user targets in 2024, Business Insider has learned. The company's chief technology officer, Andrew Bosworth, announced Reality Labs grew by 2024 sales by 40%, according to an internal memo seen by BI. Oh, the tabs on the side. Yeah. I kind of go back and forth between them. I use tabs on the side for like probably a good solid 6 to 8 months. And then I was like, one day I was just like, I'm just going to try to go back. And I was like, okay, nice. The only bad thing is like navigating tabs. So like dragging them out and then like dragging it back in is so hard. Like it's like, like you kind of have to bring it. Like you have to like figure, I don't know, play with it to get it. But yeah, it's cool. Try it out. Easy Brave setting. Okay. Okay. And also, I think a big part of this Reality Labs division is that it was burning. Yeah, these are tabs. Yeah, these are just tabs. You could also have bookmarks on the side like this, though. You could add like you got like other websites to it. Oh, I don't know what just happened. Yeah, you could have bookmarks over here too, like this. just clicked. Did I lose? Yeah, we're back. Okay, 2024 was a pivotal year for Reality Labs and positioned us for greatness 2025. The team beat nearly all of last year's aggressive sales and user goals, growing Reality Labs sales to greater than 40% year over year overall. Yet we are seeing massive sales growth in wearables, and the Quest brand has never been stronger. On Christmas Day, the company's Horizon app, which users must download to set up Meta's Quest virtual reality headsets, bro, literally the reason why I don't have one of these some bullshit like this, was the top free app on Apple App Store and in the US and the UK, which suggested strong holiday demand. It's fair. And I think the Quests are pretty reasonably priced. Bosworth added that the Reality Labs business group, the division that was led by Reality Labs COO Dan Reed, was a major part of setting the company up for the future. Meta didn't respond for a Quest or comment. Meta's Reality Labs division has been under scrutiny as it continues to incur substantial losses due to heavy investment in augmented reality technology. Since 2020, Meta has recorded losses of more than $50 billion from the group. They were so optimistic about Metaverse, it's insane. I do think, though, the VR stuff in general, it's just an R&D expense now, and considering that Meta's working on Orion glasses, that they want to be the next smartphone replacement, the next compute platform, I think it's justified, you know. I think it's a little steep. Like, they went all in way too fast, though, is I feel like the problem. Like you kind of need to like slowly work up. But I do think that I watched an interesting video yesterday just about commentary on the current like economy with DeepSeek, and how kind of Trump is changing, trying to change more like cultural, you know, how the US like does business, and like more of like that cultural kind of like, you know, like he wants us to be like more inward looking, you know, less outward looking, more like have national pride, you know, like do things for like the country, like shit like that. Kind of like how China's kind of like essentially what China is trying to do. But China's being forced to do it by the US, and we are now kind of like, you know, making the choice to in a way. But a lot of it is, we just thought that, you know, as an American, we could just throw more money at things and it'll just make things better. And generally that's been true. But now that China has, you know, extremely restrictive, I guess sanctioning, you could call it realistically. Now that like we're kind of like sanctioning China in different ways, they have to come up with creative ways to be more efficient with the things they're doing, mainly compute, i.e., you know, DeepSeek, and like they don't have unlimited capital, they could just continue to throw at things, whereas that's the US's strategy. Now the US is kind of like, shit, like maybe efficiency kind of does matter, like maybe we do have to actually care about like how we make the thing, because, you know, we can't just keep throwing money at stuff while our competitors are doing it for fractions of the cost, which is, you know, DeepSeek was trained on fractions of the cost in compute power, but it still somehow, you know, matches or is like has relative performance to models in the US that have cost, you know, arguably billions of dollars to train. So I think it's kind of a wake-up call where it's like, I think they've been calling it the Sputnik moment. There's been a few articles I've seen calling it like that. I don't know, that naming's like interesting, but I don't know how I feel about it. But it is definitely a wake-up call, I think. And so I guess the whole point, to loop it back around, is I think Meta spending money on R&D is not bad, because I think that's what we actually need to do now, is we need to spend money on research and development to understand and be more efficient with our resources that we're using, instead of just spending as much money as you can for no reason, but people will give it to you. I don't know. I'll do things for a country when the country starts doing things for me again, right? Yeah, exactly. But this like it's kind of the Peter Thiel national conservatism. This is kind of like, I'm sure this is like definitely opinion. Yeah, but this is, yeah, Peter Thiel explains the new national conservatism. It's using the power of the state to punish his enemies and make the world the way he wants it to be. That sounds very familiar. That sounds very familiar. But Peter Thiel's like the tech lord. He's like the tech overlord. Him and Mark Zuckerberg. This side tangent is warranted. Peter Thiel, Mark Zuckerberg emails leaked. This is it. This is how big brained, like, national, like, conservative, like, I don't know, this is how Peter Thiel thinks. It's insane. Peter Thiel and Mark Zuckerberg on Facebook millennials and predictions for the 2030. This is in 2019. And it's crazy because it's crazy how much of their life is dedicated to like they're not even, like, they're just committed to playing this out and changing the way they live their life to be in a better picture of, like, people they want to target and influence, I guess. Like, that's why Zuck had his fucking glow up, is to be more millennial like and to fit in more and to be, like, more cool so people trust him more so he could do shit, you know, like, I don't know, with all of his Facebook and AI shit. Like, that's literally what it is, and they've been planning this for years. This is to Peter. Says, hi Peter, it ain't working, bud. I don't know, probably not for us, but I don't know, for more normie people, like, I think it kind of works. I think it, like, you know, he's like, bro, Zuck's cool now, bro, like. But I also think most people don't even know who Zuckerberg is, if I'm being honest, and they even talk about that in here. Okay, it says Cheryl said, should I reach out to you? As she says, you and Mark have been discussing the need for Facebook to remain more attuned to millennials. Would be great if I could hear your thoughts so that I can help support the direction of travel. Do tell me if and when you might be able to have a chat on the phone. I am in London, Madrid from tomorrow till January 4th, but generally available. This is to Peter, from Peter. And they CC'd Mark Zuckerberg, Sheryl Sandberg, which I think is Mark Zuckerberg's wife. Maybe not. Definitely not Mark Zuckerberg's wife. Oh yeah, she's COO of Meta Platforms. Got it. The name sounded familiar. And Mark Andreessen, who is notorious venture capitalist. He's buddies with Mark, he's buddies with Mark. He's buddies with Trump. He's created the Techno Optimist Manifest. This dude is crazy. Like, I don't know. That's just the best way I could describe him. He's just on a different level, and his opinions are insane. Like, actually. But he has a lot of power. He runs A16Z. He's just a notorious venture capitalist, so he has a lot of power. Hi Nick, I thought it might be helpful to put some of my thoughts in writing, and I'm taking the liberty of CCing a few others here. It's important. In important ways, Facebook is the millennial company par excellence. It was started by a team of millennials and remains by far the most successful millennial company. As measured by market capitalization, the next closest ones are Stripe and Airbnb, which at 35 billion and 30 billion respectively are each 5% of the size of Facebook. The product was initially used by millennial college students and became an important way in which the generational experience of millennials differed radically from that of older people. And even today, millennials remain our most active users. And you have to remember, it's not necessarily just Facebook, it's also Instagram, WhatsApp. I don't know what other portfolio companies I have now. As a result of this history and success, there's a certain sense in which Mark Zuckerberg has been cast as the spokesperson for the millennial generation, which is insane that they even have the, like, ego to say that. But as a single person who gives a voice to the hopes and fears of the unique experiences of this generation, at least in the USA. Some examples where Mark shares on Facebook a part of the narrative is a generational narrative that young people are more comfortable with technology and therefore share more on Facebook than their elders. When Mark and Priscilla commit to giving away 99% of their wealth during their lifetimes, and do so at much earlier age than, say, Buffett or Gates, then this story again gets understood in generational terms, that millennials are more generous and philanthropic, and start thinking about these things at much earlier point in their lives. And more dramatically and powerfully, when Facebook connects the world, this gets cast in generational terms, e.g. that the younger generation will bridge the many divisions in our world and build a more peaceful world than past generations were able to build. And when these utopians' hopes disappoint, Mark and Facebook receive a disproportionate amount of blame. Lizardman is not a millennial, but he may have been around for a millennia. Yeah, right. This whole arc was traced by David Kirkpatrick, whose 2011 book, The Facebook Effect, encapsulated this utopian projections for younger people generally, and whose derangement in recent years can be best understood as the disappointment of these unrealistic hopes. Of course, there are numerous ways in which this role, Mark as a millennial spokesman, is both pretty unfair and highly inappropriate. It's unfair because this is much of a burden should not be placed on any single person. It's kind of a bit of like a woe is me, you know? It's like, but also like no one's putting this on Mark, like no offense. It is unfair because this is much of a burden, should not place on any single person. And is it inappropriate because Mark is highly unrepresentative example of the millennial generation for a whole range of reasons that we do not need to enumerate. He's like kind of just like, I mean, like, look at him, you know. But even with these caveats, I believe that we may be better served by understanding that something like this is going on and trying to think about what it would mean for Mark to think of himself as a millennial spokesperson, and perhaps to contrast this with what I take to be our current policy, at least implicitly, of Mark as a baby boomer construct of how a well-behaved millennial is supposed to act. If forced to make a choice, I would always rather win popularity contests with millennials than with boomers. Yeah, I mean, because you want to win over the younger generation. You can think of Pete Buttigieg as a political example of what Mark absolutely should not be. Buttigieg is very popular with older baby boomer voters and shockingly unpopular with millennial voters of his age and younger. He's like that guy who's like Buttigieg is like that guy whose all friends are like grandmas and grandpas. Buttigieg's basic message is that the system is working reasonably well, and this is precisely why younger voters do not like him. Yeah, because the system's only working well for boomers. He's a sort of super annoying millennial who tells the boomers that what they want to hear, and thereby glosses over many ways in which the generational compact in our society has been badly broken. That sounds, I kind of agree with that. Now it is much easier to describe a problem than to describe the solution, and I think a millennial tilt or millennial message needs to be thought through in very context-specific ways. Some of the following examples may be a bit unfair because 2020 hindsight is always easier. Yeah, I kind of want to read Mark Zuckerberg's here. Let's just finish this. I will skip this one. As seen through the boomer versus millennial lens, Mark's commencement speech at Harvard probably was a major missed opportunity. I take it as self-evident that universities work for boomers and do not work for younger people, and therefore the choice was between giving a positive speech that reassured the 60-something parents or a more critical speech that resonated with the 20-something graduates. In my judgment, we tilted way too far towards the former, and I suspect that we never even thought that we were doing just that. If we were going to tilt in a boomer direction, it should always be in a matter of conscious choice. It's crazy that they're like, he's speaking it collectively as we, even though this is Mark Zuckerberg giving the commencement speech, he's like, we should have done something like differently like that. Like the tilt is this way. From a boomer versus millennial lens, one would have a very different set of philanthropic priorities. I would be tempted to draw a very sharp contrast between CZI, I don't know if that's probably Zuckerberg something, and the Gates Foundation by asking questions about what kind of philanthropy resonates with a younger generation versus what kinds of philanthropy boomers think younger people should be doing. As it is, CZI strikes me as a Me Too version of the Gates Foundation, which is problematic for the various reasons Mark and I discussed with Mark and Priscilla in Kauai. Like, this is insane. Like, this is literally like Illuminati shit, Perhaps we should consider millennials as a diversity criterion for our board of directors. Besides some of the tech CEOs, who are the millennials that we would consider adding to our boards? Should we aim to have 2 or 3 millennials on our boards? If we did, how would it change the nature of the discussion at the board level? A more aggressive investment policy in the tech ecosystem in Silicon Valley would be another way in which Facebook could participate in identifying with the millennial generation closer to home. By contrast, the decision to spend money in buying back shares from our baby boomer shareholders or the baby boomer money managers invested in our Facebook stock is perhaps the more conventional boomer tilt on one that should do Facebook's positive cash flows. Yeah, like they're literally even thinking about like if we buy back stocks that will benefit the baby boomers too much compared to, you know, like the millennials. Like it's insane. Insanes don't think this way, right? This is just some he's like, this is just some starters, some brainstorming starters. I'm sure we could think of many more examples. I'll be back in California on January 3rd and feel free to call me at. Yeah, it's like, thanks, Peter. Hugely thought-provoking. I will indeed give you a call over the next few days if I may. I'm flying back to California tomorrow. My own entirely knee-jerk response is to distinguish between Facebook products, which both do and should continue to engage millennials, in the far greater difficulty of gathering any credit/virtue amongst millennials from being a large, successful company. And I think that's the key right there. You need to chill on the shrooms, right? In a recent YouGov survey, 70% of US millennials said they'd vote for socialism. Big tech, or indeed big anything, is particularly unpopular with millennials. For millennials, authenticity, agency, autonomy, idealism, altruism, etc. all seem to be top of their list for desired virtues. For better or worse, they're difficult to reconcile with Silicon Valley these days. That's so funny. But I agree. It's like, yeah, I agree with all of these. At least these 3. Even altruism. I don't know about this. And again, but for better or worse, our fate amongst policymakers, notwithstanding Gen X millennials like Hockley or AOC, is largely in the hands of boomers, which they even recognize that like the politics are still in this way. The equation to think like him is education, insane wealth, and drugs. Literally. Yeah. So my instinct would be to accentuate Mark's already strong individual credentials as a builder and innovator rather than a leader founder of Facebook, though it's not straightforward to distinguish the two. Okay, so now here, this is from Mark. This is Zuckerberg giving his 2 cents now. Peter, thanks for writing this all out and helping us articulate this. Nick and others, for more background, Peter and I have had a number of conversations about what we expect the world to look like in 2030 so we can plan and position our future work accordingly. This is 2019. They're trying to plan for 2030. Like, they're 10 years ahead of everybody. Just insane. It's just crazy. One theme we've discussed is that many important institutions in our society, education, healthcare, housing, efforts to combat climate change, are still run primarily by boomers, in which ways that transfer a lot of value from younger generations to boomers themselves, which is so true. That's very true. But not to defend the boomers, but you typically just garner wealth as you get older. And so I don't think that's necessarily anything like crazy. Like, obviously the older generation will have more power like this, but the fact that I think the difference though, I think, is boomers were not thinking about other people when they voted and did things in the past, whereas I think, you know, going back to this right here, millennials are a bit more like self-aware of not only them but like the impact they're making, not just with like climate change and like, you know, all this other stuff, but just like what they're voting for, the politicians you put into the office, the policies they pass. Like, we want to set our kids up and their kids and so forth and so on, so that we could continue to, you know, have a functioning society. And boomers, it seems like, you know, we're just like all about themselves. Yeah, no, and I'm of course, it's not like that's not the 100%. I'm not like blaming them, but I think I just think it's going to be very similar to millennials, where we're going to start gathering wealth. We're going to become more important. We're going to kind of get into these positions of power as we get older. But I just hope that we kind of take a different like mindset to it. I'm not blaming the boomers. I think it's just kind of a product of their time and environment. But yeah, but it's interesting though that it's kind of like they're framing this as a boomer versus millennial, even here though. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting once boomers kind of, like mainly politicians, like once we get a younger cohort of politicians going, I think it's going to be interesting. But we just got to get I don't know. Democrats are fucking, I don't know what the fuck is happening with Democrats. Culturally, that's narrative. True. Yeah. Culturally, very true. And Gen Z, yeah. it'll be millennial versus Gen Z eventually, probably, you know. And then Gen Z versus, I feel like it kind of skips a generation because Gen X is in between boomer and millennial, but I think it's going to be more so, and Gen X is just grouped in with boomers. I feel like Gen X is grouped in with boomers, and then Gen Z and Gen Alpha are just going to be grouped together, or Gen Z is going to be grouped with millennials. Or we're kind of going to be like, where it's like, technically I might be a Gen Z, but like identify more with millennials. I don't know. Oh yeah, I think, I agree. I think, I don't think we have like anything against them like that. I think it's more so, I guess if we're thinking, I'm just thinking about this now, I'm just spitting ideas here, but I imagine that it won't be like that until millennials have the power, and then it will be Gen Z, you know, Gen Z's like, oh, the millennials are too conservative. Oh, like they're just thinking about themselves. I'm sure if we look back at history, it's kind of always been a cycle. And I think I wish there was a way to easier identify narratives and rhetorics that were previously used just in a different generation or context, because I think that like the feelings towards things right now actually haven't really changed much since back then. I think they're just, now that with the internet age and everyone's speaking out more vocally now about their politics, that it's just becoming easier to find or like hear the other narratives. But like I swear that's like, you know, screw big tech, like whatever, like I feel like that's always been here in a way, just not with big tech. It's just like, oh, it was big oil, and then it was big this or big that, and like these kind of like subsects that have these opinions have always existed, but like now, like, you know, you're just kind of making your way to them, and so you kind of realize, you kind of find them and like discover them, but like they've been like here for a while, I guess. I don't, this is so random, but like I just think about that. Whereas like I just feel like some of the rhetoric and like the narratives aren't new. They're just kind of being brought up or discovered again. And then so the news cycle picks them up. People aren't more divided in their thought, they're just more vocal and therefore creating physical caps. Yeah, exactly. And same which is kind of what the internet has done. And you know, it's good and bad. Like it's good because it helps, you know, people who previously didn't have a voice or couldn't find their kind of tribe or people that they relate with, they can now find them. But yeah, it makes people more divided, and you could see all the crazy shit happening before it was just kind of coming from a newspaper. I don't know. Your Grace Fiona was always racist, he just feels more bold. Yeah, exactly, literally. And that's the best example for today, because that's exactly what's happening now with Trump. You know, and you could kind of see, you definitely see the cultural shifts and changes. Like, it's cool to become conservative. It's like cool to be conservative right now. And like, you know, and especially with like the Democrats just fucking fumbling a free touchdown almost, like, you know, it's cool to be conservative and everyone's shifting. And, you know, I don't know. I think it's a interesting, and now because it's like these cultural things like, oh, it's cool to be racist, or, you know, it's like, it's okay, not cool, but like it's okay to be racist now because you essentially arguably have a racist, someone who is the president openly doing it. So it's like, oh cool, now I could do it. Like, you know, it's like, I mean, literally, it's like, you know, they were kind of these things that maybe you should have kept to yourself are just now being openly said and done, which is like crazy. Yeah, these 4 years are gonna be wild. This past 2 weeks, this past 9 days since inauguration have been wild. Okay, let's finish this up here, and then we'll cover a different story. I don't want to keep going back and forth. This is where I think I've read to before, but this is where it's interesting. Mark Zuckerberg responding, and the way he talks about himself is very odd. But he hits everything that we were talking about. Okay, so Feel like that I have aged 10 years or less a year. Like literally, that's like that's like some millennial shit right here. This is like some, you know, like millennials just got gone through the fucking trenches here recently, and so yeah. Okay, one thing we discussed, yeah. Okay, here we go. Still primarily run by boomers in a way that transfers a lot of value from younger generation to themselves. Our macro prediction for the next decade is that we expect this dynamic to shift very rapidly as more millennials plus Gen Zers can now vote and as the boomer generation starts to shrink. By the end of this decade, we expect more of these institutions to be run by and for the benefit of millennials and the younger generation. I would bet we'll even see a millennial president within the next few cycles by 2032. This is crazy. That'd mean next election or the next. No, that'd be, yeah. This outlook for the future puts our current tone in positioning in stark contrast and has conceived me that we should shift the center of gravity in our messaging to be more focused on millennials. Millennial prez would be interesting, yeah. Because if it would be conservative, they would just be insane. But if they were progressive, they would be in like insane in a different way, you know? I just think that, yeah, this conservative tilt is interesting. And I do wonder what it will look like after the 4 years, like the shift. Same but different. Yeah, exactly. Because it is interesting how a lot of younger men especially are becoming much more conservative quicker, or like just at a younger age, whereas like that's usually when people are they're most like liberal. And so that shift is interesting, and I just don't know. Yeah, I don't know how. It just doesn't seem like a good future for, yeah, like Democrats. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to think about, like, sometimes it's hard for me to picture like other people's perspective and like understand, like, you know, like where they're coming from to be able to vote like that. To the point where it's like, I feel like next election is going to be just insane, even more than this one. Anyways, yeah. I guess I'm having a hard time even like predicting what will happen in like the end of the 4 years, like end of 4 years. Like I just, yeah, it's crazy. Okay. This outlook for the future puts our current tone and positioning in stark contrast and has conceived me that we should shift. Oh yeah, center of gravity, whatever. Third party. Yeah, I hope we open. I think opening. Okay, theory. Democrats fumble so hard these next 4 years that all the people who actually like want to get shit done spin off to another party, in like we essentially become a multi-party system just because Democrats fumble so hard, and that like people want something else to vote for, and either the independents start to grow more, and then, you know, the more traditional parties of Republican and Democrat see that as a threat, and then so then they want to have more parties to then dilute the independents. I don't know. I just don't know what the future of politics are in America anymore. From a policy perspective, even the boomers are still defining the policies. Oh, here we go. Right now, we should make sure we're setting ourselves up to win the debates over the next 5+ years and not just today. We want to be on the side of the future, so this still feels relevant. California, Texas succeed? Bro, I don't even know about California. Like, bro, we're in debt, bro. Even Sacramento's in like has an insane deficit. Texas just has its own problems. There's a bill too. like a bill like for the state, like like California, like, oh, you owe this, you owe us now, like a. I don't even know what's going on in Texas. I feel like Texas is just Texas. Okay, no. The prediction is California is going to become okay. Insane. Next election cycle in California. Oh, for leaving the U.S. I heard that like Russia like wanted that or some bullshit, or like Putin like was pushing that on his like fucking troll accounts or whatever. What, I can't remember what the agency's called, FRA or some shit. The Secretary of State, that's crazy. Okay, my predictions, my completely no factual basis behind it except for I'm making this up prediction. California is in a huge deficit. The next election cycle, which because Newsom is up for re-election, I think, or Newsom's done, I think, next year, 2026. So we're gonna have a new governor. There's a chance, I think it could be very moderate, even conservative president. I think that a lot of boomers, again, because think about who owns land in California. It's mostly boomers now because they're the only people who could afford it, or they're just wealthy. Both people skew conservative. Millennials just don't have any money. And so they don't have any power in politics. It's about money, buying advertising. That literally more money equals like you win in politics essentially. But just because of the deficit that we've been having in California, the fires, like all this shit, essentially Newsom fumbled the bag for, the left, maybe, possibly. This is a prediction. And so this next election cycle, it's going to be a much more moderate to conservative person. Everyone in California who doesn't agree with that, i.e. progressives, is going to move to somewhere that's becoming more progressive and somewhere where they could then go and make a change, i.e. Texas. Austin starts growing, becoming a bigger hub. The cities in Texas get more power because, power in terms of democratic voting, because everyone's flooding into the big cities and suburbs in Texas where it's a growing, cities generally have more left-leaning political views, progressive political views, and so the cities are actually just going to carry Texas because all the outlying, random plots of land doesn't have enough electoral votes for the electoral college, and it's going to start. They're going to slowly start switching. That's my ultimate plan. Yeah, no, I think reality is like, yeah, California is 100% blue state. I just feel like it wasn't that close last election. California voting 2024 election. I want to see the percentages compared. Yeah, so Joe Biden won by an insane amount. These are primaries. Here we go. Okay. Okay. 58%. Okay. 58%, 38% Republican. See, this was down 5% this year. That's what I want to see. 5% is a big swing down. I just feel like a lot of people are leaving cities in California and moving to these more red-ish, like outlier countries. Okay. Actually, no. New theory, new data. Like beep, 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 beep. This just in. The deportation of immigrants is going to have a huge effect if that happens in California and in Texas, though. I don't know which way that would favor. I surprisingly don't think it will favor Republicans. I don't know. I want to see a percentage change by county. exactly with the way the immigration policy is changing and cuts to assistance programs, people will go left. Yeah. People are getting pissed off. Yeah, I don't know. I think though it's still that I imagine that could be the case, because that is one of my other theories, is that these 4 years, people are going to hate it so much, and it's actually not going to be that, even though we may as a country be more successful due to technology, AI, whatever, like overall happiness and like satisfaction with the government will go down just because of all the cuts and other bullshit that they want to do, that is just kind of more so benefiting them and not necessarily the people, especially the working class. Yeah, quality of life is going down, and that should be the number one indicator for what a government should do, is raising the quality of life of its citizens. And so I think that is going to be a big thing. And so I could see after these 4 years a huge swing left because of the the unhappiness of like all the cuts to all the shit, and then people are like, we want our stuff back, and the Democrats are like, we can save that, we can get that back. Yeah, what is a modern day replacement? I don't know, like being like a social democrat. What the fuck is this picture they used? Like a social democrat, I feel like. That's what I consider. I would probably consider somewhere in there. It's like you still have like a capitalist. It's still capitalistic, but it's just, you have just good social government programs. I guess it's technically socialism, but it's more so in between of like capitalism and like socialistic. Or in modern practice, social democracy is taking the form of predominantly capitalist economies, with the state regulating the economy in the form of welfare capitalism, economic interventionism. Yeah, it's essentially what we are today. Like, whether people on the left want to agree with it or not, the government has a huge hand in the economy, and they're also a huge producer of work for the economy. Granted, I'm sure like with all the cuts that are happening, it'll definitely get like, they're definitely going the other direction now, but yeah. I do think this is so far off what I'm just talking about whatever today. I do think this representative democracy is actually kind of part of what's let us down, and I'm kind of not sure about representative democracy anymore. I think like being able to vote directly, because the representative democracy is essentially just another way that people, like corporations mainly, could insert themselves into the like process of like someone voting, because ultimately you could vote for someone who you think has your best ideals, but there's nothing saying that Microsoft could come in and give them a little paycheck to sway their opinions. And this is what kind of representative democracy kind of just gives another way for like lobbying and corruption to happen. Direct democracy, at least you are voting for what you want to happen, and like there's no in between to say otherwise or decide for you. I'm sure there's some other side to it that's like against that, but change democracy. Thoughts on Supreme Court limitations? I don't even know, but terms. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. See, like judges are hard because you do want judges to have like experience behind them to be able to see a lot of cases and understand. But it seems like it's now just becoming another like they're just becoming partisan now, for the most part, at least. And I think that kind of defeats the purpose a bit. And like there's the protection too. Like, yeah, I mean, the job protection. I don't know. I think it's like weirdly hard. I don't know what the process is to become a judge, but I imagine like there can't be like is there like a shortage of judges, or like, yeah, I don't know. I think really what it comes down to is that the checks and balances right now are actually just aren't balanced. we need a balance patch for the US government. Like, really. Yeah, shitty candidates. Yeah, exactly. But, and I think though that's only going to continue to go downhill, especially as, yeah, like that's actually an interesting case for AI too, because like lawyers are like, just, if AIs replace lawyers, then who become judges? Yeah, I don't know. I definitely think that they have a lot of power. I just feel like the checks and balances isn't in order right now, because the executive branch could. So what? An executive branch could just, sign the executive order and just do whatever they want. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm talking about like long term. But I guess they could pass the bar exam right now, so it's more so like that, I guess. Yeah. No, I get the point. Yeah, I just feel like there needs to be a balance patch and for checks and balances. Executive order could decide whatever they want. Obviously, judges could then stop the things, which they have been, but then if it just goes up to the Supreme Court and then it's cited for your side, which it's going to be conservative for a hell of a long time because we got a bunch of youngins on the Supreme Court here. Yeah, nerf the Fed, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting times. I just think though if nothing else comes of what Trump is doing, it's going to show that there is no checks and balances. I think that's going to be a big thing of what Trump administration is going to show. He has control of all of Congress. He has control of the judicial branch. Arguably he has control of the legislative branch, judicial branch, and now the executive branch. And I think it's going to show that, like, maybe it's too OP when all three are here. Like, when we have control of all three. I feel like it's a bug. I feel like it's a bug when all three are controlled by the same party. Let's be honest. Like, why would we intend to do that? What was Thomas Jefferson thinking up, What was fucking old Ben Franklin? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because if you actually think about this, like, they're actually going in the opposite direction. They're getting rid of elderly care. They could care less, give a shit about workers' comp. Could give a shit about education, considering they want to close it down. Childcare is insanely expensive right now and hard to even come by, regardless of if you could pay for it. Wealth inequality is the highest it's been. I don't know. Those dudes were lit as fuck in the tavern, bro. Literally. Literally. They're like, bro, what if? What if? Yeah. You'd be broke, you had to pay for daycare. It's literally like rent. Another rent. A few weeks ago, we were talking with like our apartment manager recently had a baby. And she's just having a solo baby, no partner. And she fortunately found daycare for cheap, like right around the corner from us. But she said, like, if she wouldn't have, that she would have like had to literally like take the baby to work or figure out some other thing, because she couldn't have afforded like daycare alone, which is crazy, because like I don't know. Yeah, so she's just going for it. But childcare is insane right now. Like it's one of those things that's like broken. But I think that's having a kid is kind of broken right now. Like the economy's kind of against you for having a kid. Like it's just very expensive. There's all kinds of like supply chain issues. Everyone's trying to make a buck in the supply chain of a baby, and so it's turned into people, having a kids is like taking on a job that, you pay it instead of it paying you. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I think though that's fucked up, and like that's why we're having these like declines, and like all this shit's happening. Is like, bro, there's reasons, like, if you want people to have babies, like maybe just like Make it a little more affordable, a little easier, so people, no matter what their background, could have one, and they don't have to worry about whether they could, you know, get baby formula or whatever. Like, it's insane. It's insane. Yeah. Anyways, I'm actually kind of good. We went on these side tangents because I had one more story to cover. I can't even find it anymore. I was just gonna wing it and hope I went on tangents today. Yeah, Peter Thiel. I'm a political commentator, exactly. Bro, if I would go full into politics if it wasn't so toxic online, because it's so, I was telling Vicky the other day, like, politics has like everything that is interesting to me. It has like the, like, you know, it has the dynamic of like data. Like, data is such a big player. There's so much of it. You could analyze it in different ways, and it's connected to every other industry. Like, you know, like there's all kinds of like things involved. Like, it is interesting to cover. Like, the strategy's insane. Like, all of that. Like, I just like talking about that, but it's so toxic online. So I don't know. I kind of like I dip into it when there's interesting things, but I cover, you know, politics from like the tech perspective a little bit. But I would just go full degen politics if it wasn't so toxic. Where we're looking here. I was looking at here. Yeah. Oh yeah, Meta. Yeah, all this bullshit here. Good call. Yeah. But there is part of me where it's like, you know, I don't want to like not talk about politics because like all these like being conservative is cool, and like, you know, it's like not really popular to like, I don't know, be on the left right now, I guess, or whatever. And like, I don't want to like hide and like, you know, be that kind of like person, I guess, either. Like, I do see, like, I don't know, if I could help people, educate people, you know, on like the goods of the other side, you know. But realistically, it's like that just like doesn't happen. I don't know, with online politics. People don't come and join you to like people. Okay, this is my last side tangent, and they'll probably end the stream here because this changed. Yeah, swimming upstream. Yeah, this changed my perspective on content and just analysis in general. Pirates content pyramid. This is insane. Okay, I need to open my window. Be right back. Okay, this is for content, but it's just in general. But okay, so we have at the bottom is consumption. Obviously, most people consume content. Most people like don't actually create anything. They just, you know, they just kind of consume it when that's, you know, it's whatever. It's just how it is. And then, you know, if we kind of go up a level from consumption, we have curation. You know, and curation is just kind of like your taste. It's, you know, curating content, you know, videos, images, tweets, news articles, you know, according to things you find interesting or a theme or whatever it is. And this curation could actually has different levels. We have just sharing, which is like the lowest form, just retweeting, whatever. And then we have opinion. So we have curation with opinion. So you share something and you tell the reader why you like or don't like it, feel happy, sad, whatever. You just share your opinion on it. And then we have curation with insight. You know, opinions are easy. Everyone has one. But yeah, more valuable to that is an opinion, or is an insight. So it's kind of, they give the example of like Ryan Holiday with, I think he does like Daily Stoic, Tim Ferriss, 4-Day Work Week, you know, other world-class creators. And then we kind of have the obvious connection. And this is what really changed my mind with stuff. So we have the obvious connection and then a non-obvious connection. An obvious connection would be like Microsoft was the #1 publisher last month. They spent nearly 400, you know, they did this. It's like, okay, well, the obvious connection is probably that it was Christmas. You know, Christmas was there. The Black Ops 6 came out the month or two previously. A lot of people probably got it for Christmas. You know, that's kind of an obvious connection there. You know, and then like a non-obvious connection would maybe be like something like, you know, you have to provide context as to get the person to understand, you know, kind of your thought process, and the connection might be, you know, a few dots in between the initial and the final, and so you have to provide the context, but it's not an obvious connection. And the non-obvious connection is obviously harder, but a lot of times you have to you know, write a bunch and teach the reader a lot about your thought process and why you think about something in order to, you know, get them to understand the connection between the obvious and non-obvious one. But the obvious connection thing, and also just in general, we go to like the consumption part. Most people just want to see what they already agree with or know on social media. They don't want to actually have to think about something that they're reading, because I don't know, it requires thought, and it just, like, you know, agitates them. Like, people kind of, you know, doom scroll. It's like they do it for, like, you know, not the reason to like contradict what they think or whatever. It's like it's something easy on the brain. And so they kind of like gave examples of like someone who just like says the obvious thing of like, they use this guy Gary V, who's like I don't really like, but it's like what's the example that he? But it's like, oh, in order to work hard, you have to put in the time and do this stuff. It's like, yeah, no shit, like obviously, but like that, you know, like those kind of people who kind of like do the like obvious part get, you know, they obviously get probably the most likes and like retweets or whatever, but it's just because people are agreeing with them, and so that's kind of what they want. Whereas like, you know, the non-obvious one is generally you're probably a little contrarian and going against the grain, and it's not as easy to sway people over to your side and opinion, but you know, over the long term it's probably like, you know, probably some sort of beneficial, or you have some sort of like, you know, long-term like non-obvious connection that you could you know, you could teach them, but it requires them to kind of go outside of the box, outside of their normal thinking, to be able to see it. But this obvious and non-obvious connection, now it's like anytime I like read something, I'm like, oh, that's an obvious connection or whatever. It's like, oh. And so now it just like broke my brain a bit, because like sometimes when I say things, I'm like, bro, no shit, that's obvious. Like obviously that's why that's happening. Or like, you know, or it's just like, I don't know, it kind of changed my perspective on things. And like sometimes I'm like, bro, that's so dumb. Like obviously that's why it's happening. But you know, if you think about it from the other side, it's not obvious to everyone. So that's kind of where it's like, okay, well, I'm, you know, trying to teach that, but yeah, it's 90% what I say. Yeah, and it's just like, I'm like, and yeah, now that I saw this though, it just kind of broke my brain a bit, and being able to categorize things like this just kind of like really opened things up, and it's like, fuck, like, bro, it's just so strange. But it also really helped me understand kind of the content I'm trying to go for, you know, like it's definitely a mix of things where it's like curation with my opinion, with some sort of insight sometimes, and then my weird tangents. But yeah, just interesting seeing this and just kind of like understanding the different tiers, especially this obvious, non-obvious thing. It was just, yeah, so interesting. Yeah, but this is a great read. This is interesting. Yeah, this is like the obvious kind of like thing. It's like, it takes every single person in the organization to achieve what you want to achieve. It's like, yeah, obviously, but it's like that people just want to hear this because it's like they agree with it, and so they like it. Anyways, I thought this was just so interesting. It really opened my eyes up to this like obvious, non-obvious connection, and for analysis in general, because that's also why like I don't finish a lot of things, is because I start with these like non-obvious connection pieces writing, and then they're so long that I get fatigued and just like, shit. Like even my Technonomicon I was writing, and like it just gets, I get too like, I just need to lower the scope, and I just write too much, and then I don't finish it in this first setting, and then by the time I come back to it, it's like outdated. But it's just because I just like was trying to make these like, I was trying too hard to be like not obvious, I guess. I don't know. but it was just helpful to internalize like which ones I kind of want to go for and to help you understand like what you're writing a little more. So anyways, okay, today's Wednesday. All right, yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. Cover some news, some more side tangents, I'm sure. Microsoft, there's some big tech earnings. We might actually go over those tomorrow, at least just look at them initially, because it's gonna influence some stuff here. So we have Microsoft. Just look up real quick. And here. Okay, Meta's today. Digital aftermarket. And Tesla. T-Mobile did good. Alibaba, which this will be an interesting one too, actually. IBM. Yeah, actually, we'll take a look at Meta and Microsoft, definitely. Maybe even Tesla, because I'm sure they'll say some bullshit. Apple's tomorrow, Visa's tomorrow, MasterCard, Blackstone. And Comcast. Ew, Intel's tomorrow too, and this is actually going to be a big indicator too. Whether they could survive or not. Okay, yeah. Well, there's some big tech earnings. It'll be interesting. We want to see capital expenditures, what kind of data centers they're building, any other stuff like that. Gaming for Microsoft, I really want to see. So yeah, cool. All right, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow. 9 a.m. Pacific. Where am I looking for? This button. 9 a.m. Pacific. Yeah, more news. We'll cover some earnings and just chill, hang out. So appreciate everyone showing up and tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow. Still don't have an ending screen. I'll be right back. See ya.